Good afternoon. This is Paul Frank, Executive Vice President of the New Jersey Tech Council, and we'd like to welcome you to a webinar which is going to focus on our 2016 ICT Information and Communications Technology Survey. We did this in conjunction with the New England Institute of Technology, the University of Quebec, and New Jersey Institute of Technology. The Council, which is a nonprofit organization based in New Brunswick, New Jersey, has approximately 800 technology companies as members around the region. This is our 5th annual survey that we have done with New Jersey Institute of Technology, focusing in on ICT companies. And here to talk a little bit about the New England Institute of Technology is Janice Drew.
Yeah, so my name is Janice Drew. I'm the Director of Marketing at New England Institute of Technology, and we're very excited to participate in this ITC survey for the first time. I've been at New England Institute of Technology since January of 2016 and have seen the growth of the university. We have over 50 associate, bachelor's, and master's degree programs, as well as online and hybrid degree programs. Very pleased that we were also recently ranked number 8 in the nation, number 1 in Rhode Island, number 1 in New England for our online bachelor's degree programs. And we were also very proud to have a technical advisory council that helps build our programs here, especially in the IT industries. And James Kwan is here as one of our technical advisory committee members who also participated in the survey. So I'll let James introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Janice. Thanks for having me, and very excited to be on the call. Like Janice said, I'm the CEO and principal at Stignitz Digital Creative Marketing. We're a full-service digital creative marketing firm here in New England. I actually used to teach at New England Tech as an adjunct. Really got to dive into their program. Still sit on the board for as an advisor for things that are happening in the industry, things to stay ahead on in technology as well as design and marketing. So really excited to be on the call, and yeah, looking forward to it.
And Tim?
Yes, I'm Tim Henry. I'm the Graduate Director of Information Technology at New England Tech. I've been at New England Tech for about 5 years, and I have over 20 years industry experience with running IT projects out in the field and working in a variety of different industries, from healthcare to state and federal agencies, and even working in some cell and mobile technologies over the years. So I'm really excited to go through these survey results that we have here, because it gives a lot of good feedback just for where different organizations need to focus their efforts in hiring, and also for educational institutions like ours, where we need to focus our efforts in education and training for individuals. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. On this slide, we have just generally a background of who participated in the survey. You can see that there was a large participation from New Jersey, as you'd probably expect, with the New Jersey Tech Council leading it. But also we have about 27 respondents from Rhode Island, which makes up about 1/6 of the overall respondents. And we even had a little bit of participation from international organizations too in this. So as we go through, we can also look at how this breakdown of the participants makes up the results, or affects the results as we go through. And the smaller block over on the right just goes through just the different years of the New England or the New Jersey Tech Council surveys. And you can see that this year, with 172 United States participations and 10 from Canada, and with 202 overall, this is by far the largest year that we've had any participation.
Right, and I do want to jump in and say that we're very appreciative of the Technical Advisory Council members who participated, and looks like we've got people in Connecticut, Massachusetts who also did as well. So looks like there are quite a few people within the New England Institute of Technology community that participated.
Okay, now as we sent out the surveys, they were sent to a broad range of organizations who we and the New Jersey Tech Council are affiliated with. And as the responses came back, you can see that application software, consulting, cloud service providing, and even managed service providers and networking were heavily represented. And that also goes to say it's going to impact how we look at the results, because the results are going to be coming from organizations that have a lot of experience in these areas. And so it also applies to the fact that there's a large segment of the IT industry that is in these particular areas. And you expect application software to be there because in consulting, a lot of consulting is software development, not just networking and doing the other pieces to it. So a large segment of the industry is represented here.
And James, I think you would consider yourself content media, multimedia?
We probably cross over from as a full service agency, starting off as a content media marketing strategy firm, but as well as design services. We work with application development and developers to produce UI UX consulting services, so producing the actual interfaces and testing services to make sure that the experiences are really great online. And there's a lot of carryover from real world experiences to software, and you see so many applications and services that are starting online from the industry, but we're going to dive into that much further. And I guess I'll lead it off with just looking at that top left-hand corner, looking at web services increasing 18%. Just in the canvas of our industry, we see still so many different services that are commonplace and done even in ledgers and paper today, maybe in background hard software or computer-based software, moving to web services and things disrupting complete industries like HR, accounting. We still have daily tasks. We've seen just in the last 5 years services that we would have never guessed been disrupted, like the taxi industry or the food delivery services. They're just completely turned on its head because of web services today.
All right, and along the lines of what's going to be disrupting things, I think as we go through the comments later on, you'll see that even though the Internet of Things is rated only 37% feel it's very important now, the Internet of Things is increasing, where overall 3/4 believe that that's important at some level. I think we're going to see in the next 4 to 5 years that increasing even more as more and more devices become connected to the internet. Organizations are going to want to leverage that data as much as they can. They're going to want to get information from people that work in their organization, what they're doing at various different times, how the business processes flow, like tracking people actually in the organization, tracking documents, tracking the data and things that the organization works with. They'll be able to do that at a much finer level of detail between the sensors and the Internet of Things. They'll be able to take that information and analyze it, do the big data analytics, and be able to optimize the business processes at a level that they've never been able to do before.
Right. I also just thought of this in terms of cybersecurity. As it's not listed here, but I would think that's also kind of a big component to think about as more and more devices come online, or more and more web services become available. That must be something that companies are concerned about as well.
Yes, I think you'll see cybersecurity stretches across all these different technologies. But as we come into the Internet of Things, you're going to find out that there is a huge need to step up what we've been doing in the area of security. As devices originally came out and were connected to the internet, security was an afterthought. And we're paying the price for that now with thousands of millions of devices connected to the internet that aren't secure are being used for malicious activities.
Yeah, Tim's exactly right. Cybersecurity probably 10, 15 years ago used to be its own category, and today it bleeds so integrally to all of these categories, especially in web services and IoT. It's top of mind, probably the number one thing that every company is considering. and you have to because it is a dangerous world when everything can be connected.
Right, and I think when James mentions web services and IoT as two important areas, he's very true on that, because those are access points. Web services, as you go in through a website, and how the website reacts with the back end and the Internet of Things, those are access points for malicious entities to enter systems, and after that, all the other pieces are vulnerable. So let's look at the application areas here that are hot in 2016. Well, those are technologies which are slightly different. You could think of the technologies as having hardware and software merged together in some cases. If we look at the applications areas, where's the software being developed, or what are people developing tools and processes for? And you can see, again, web applications is really important, and the information analytics, the big data, is really important. And related to that is cloud-based applications, being able to do whatever your organization needs from wherever it is, and having infrastructure as on the cloud, having your applications on the cloud, having your data stored on the cloud. All of that gives your organization a tremendous amount of flexibility, and it also takes a lot of the support needs away from your own staff and puts it with people who can be experts and take care of it.
And Tim, I think that there is a growing trend in the industry that that companies, organizations, business people, they feel more comfortable using those services, and so you see things like more payroll services, more HR services, more accounting services. Those things that benefit so much from the data and analytics are becoming commonplace as cloud-based services, and you see that from the comparison between web-based database applications versus e-commerce. Whereas e-commerce, 20 years ago even, that was booming. Everybody wanted to just sell things online, right? And we're just kind of scratching the surface, even, I think, of all the things that you could do beyond just purchasing materials and items. We can really perform everyday tasks and carry out entire businesses online, which is really exciting.
Right, and adapting to this is something we're working to do in education and training, because it's a different skill set that you need to build and support cloud-based applications than you did when you built e-commerce solutions. Okay,
I think there's also I just want to jump in real quick and say maybe I think an IT executive may also answer these questions differently than say a marketing executive, because when I look at these, I mean, I would agree that web-based applications are really important, as well as data analytics, and in terms of other areas that I'd rate very important as a marketer, it would be social media and mobile, and those are slightly lower, but I do see that more and more consumers are using mobile applications and active on social media and new social media platforms. So I think it would be interesting to see the trends from a marketer's perspective as well, who works very closely with IT. And looking at, depending on the industry, consumer software or e-commerce solutions may also be more important. But depending, like you had mentioned earlier, based on the industries that responded, they may not find certain solutions as important right now.
Well, in thinking about social media, the companies may not be looking to build their own social media apps, but maybe are integrating that into their current framework, which is probably a different perspective than what this question was asking for. So I think this is looking more towards what are they going to be developing, what areas are they going to be working on in the industry themselves.
That makes sense.
So when we look at the business areas that are hot, this is, again, a different perspective. This is how are they going to be using the software? What are people going to use the software for? And as you can see, some of the important areas is ease of use, making people's jobs easier, which 20 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the way software worked. It was get the software done, and whatever happens, the user interface was what it was. But now with mobile devices, technology, software has become a lot easier to use, and we've really grown in that area. but also coming up with new product areas and innovation. There's still a lot of room for innovation. It looks like people are excited about that.
And James, what are your thoughts about these business areas?
Yeah, so the vastness of growth, or the extension of growth for better marketing is really is telling in our industry. You see so many marketing automation tools that really started probably a decade ago now, really picking up steam, and people are gravitating towards tools like HubSpot, Marketo, and there's just so many tools out there that creates automation and efficiency around the redundancies and inefficiency around the marketing processes. If you want to be a good marketer, you have to do things like, reaching out to every person who's written about a certain topic, or writing lots of blog posts, or making sure that every person who comes to your website is treated in a very specific sort of way through a workflow. All these things can be automated today, and it saves the marketers. It saves so much time for the marketer that it becomes indispensable now for competing with the competition. So keeping up with the competition. So I totally agree with that, and it kind of goes hand in hand. I think ease of use, again, it just kind of right after security is probably that next thing. If you can automate it for me, make it easier for me, help me analyze things much more simply, I think that's always been a focus when it comes to software and technology, and even more so now that we have the data behind it, so that we can create these efficiencies automatically.
Okay, thanks. So can we go to the next slide? Right. And I think for education and training especially, this is an important slide, as we see that qualified employees is a very important strategic concern. And even 5 years ago, it was still so important. And as technologies change rapidly, it's important not just to give the employees the skills they need for the tools that they're being used right now, but to give them the ability to learn how to use new tools very quickly.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, though the number went down, Tim, I wouldn't say that the concern from an industry standpoint, we're absolutely still concerned about getting qualified employees, but the accessibility is a lot better. The ability to have a remote team is a little bit better. The accessibility for individuals who are freelancing, getting their education through these technical schools, and then being able to look for jobs really anywhere in the world. I mean, that's kind of broadened it a little bit, and so that's made it a little bit of a much more broad playing field, right? But it is obviously a strategic concern for us as a company, and as well as all of my colleagues and constituents.
Right. I think that the fact that it's been number one, for 5 years shows that it's I think going to continue to be that way, especially in the ICT field. As technologies change, it's difficult to keep employees who are qualified in those new technologies. I mean, even today, as we saw earlier, as businesses move to web-based applications and cloud services, they need people who are familiar with that, so they know not just how to build it, but how to build it in the way that's going to best benefit the business overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, even doing that, they need to be focused on the customer concerns. As we can see in the lower right-hand corner, that organizations want to improve sales and they want to have high customer satisfaction. Related to that too is marketing, because if you have a great product and nobody knows about it, it doesn't sell.
Right.
This is Paul. Do you, being up in New England, do you see that there's an oversupply of data centers in that area? Because that was one of the things that we found driving prices down here in this region.
No, I haven't found that at all. We still have needs here. Organizations, though, they have, I wouldn't say it's an oversupply, it's right supplied right now.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, now, there's a lot of information on this confidence in the state's business climate in the upper right-hand corner, but I think it's important to focus on the ones that have more than just 4 or 5 responses so that we get a little bit better statistical idea here. But when you look at New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, they have relatively high confidence in their state's business climate, whereas it's interesting that in Rhode Island, the organizations don't have as much confidence. And I believe this was done before the election. So I don't know if the election is going to impact this at all. I know in industries such as the healthcare industry, the people I work with there are very concerned about the investments they've made in ICT and how the changes in the Affordable Care Act are going to impact them, because there's a lot of money that flows from the federal government down to the state, and then the state has been very non-committal about how that money is going to be distributed to the healthcare industry. And as a result, the ICT support people, the different organizations that do, let's say, electronic medical records for a number of different organizations, or do the healthcare data reporting that the organizations need, are not sure what's going to happen. So my perspective is mostly, seeing that from the healthcare industry side.
Sure. As a business here in Rhode Island, I'd say that there are a lot of colleagues in the area that are skeptical or concerned. I'm probably on the high confidence area side myself, so kind of in that majority. I have really high faith in our current administration. I enjoy to get to know a little bit of my political stance. I enjoy the leadership behind Governor Raimondo. I believe that it's the right steps forward. Probably some wrong, questionable decisions on the marketing stuff, but I've really enjoyed so far the plans put in place. I would imagine, though, in New York, classically, in New Jersey, just budding industries, that the size of the industry is so much larger that you just kind of get the sense that the opportunity is out there, and that would be my take. Paul, do you get that sense in New Jersey that since the opportunity and the area is much larger, that that the opportunity exists?
Yes. Politically, we're kind of in a situation where we're waiting for the new governor to come on board, and hopefully that person will be tech savvy and willing to promote the region and the state as well. So that's the big push for this year, if you will. And just to answer the earlier question, yeah, the survey was done before the election.
Have you seen this confidence rising since past surveys, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the last one we did was probably back in 2011, and people were just getting over the economic slowdown and that sort of thing. So I think the confidence is much higher in this one.
And Janice, I mean, you're talking about an industry that is soaring, right? We're not talking about manufacturing or some older classic industries. This is an industry that is moving forward. If you were to chart this across the industries that exist, I'd put my money on ICT rather than let's call it auto manufacturing, right? I mean, there's so many ups and downs there, and this is one of the more exciting industries to be a part of.
Right, and we're definitely seeing a interest in terms of IT students and in the communications industry, coming in at New England Institute of Technology. So I see it as the growth opportunity with future career opportunities as well.
Sure.
Okay, so if we look at the measures that are important to the ICT industry, so these are the organizations that are doing ICT, see that net profit generated and revenues generated are by far most important. It seems they're not as worried or concerned about raising capital or specific scientific expertise, but it has become more important in the last 5 years to raise capital. So to me, that kind of indicates a little concern about the future of the organization. If they're trying to raise capital, they're either going to be expanding or they want to have something to, I want to say, protect them uh, in a volatile business environment.
Yeah, Tim, for an industry take would be around startups. I think of primarily. I know, this survey is not represented completely by startups, but I think just in terms of the climate for the industry, a decade ago, startups were blowing up. There was a ton out there. Today, there's even more startups kind of budding. The ability to get into those markets are a little bit easier. The cloud kind of evens the playing field a little bit. And so I think the number is increasing here because in order to compete, in order to really stand out, you really have to put some fuel behind that fire and raise capital in order to make a difference and stand out. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to get into the game as before, but certainly is. There's so much potential out there that there certainly is an area to play in.
Yeah. I think that's a good analysis of it. That also may impact to the revenues generated, net profit generated, because if you're getting a lot of investors, you're going to end up having to pay them back.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, revenues, it's interesting, the revenues generated is more important because, again, 5 years ago, you could raise a lot of money on just acquisitions, right, where, Twitter and these other social media markets would be evaluated by the speed at which they can acquire customers. And today, that doesn't really matter because we've seen so many of those. We're at the hindsight of that. So we've seen, Meerkat and Periscope and Vine. I mean, the acquisition targets were high, but they weren't able to monetize after that. And so, there's a kind of a hesitancy, I think, from the market to want to see dollars, which is, classic. We knew that was going to happen. So, that's not surprising, I think.
Okay, if we look at the feeling of competence, do you feel your organization is competent in these different areas? And it compares the competence to importance, which hopefully you'll be competent in the things you think are important. It seems that for me the disconnect was between having the ability to anticipate the market, feeling that it's critical, but the competence is extremely important, but not necessarily having that competence available.
Mm. And Janice, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I think it's coming from what we talked about, this a fast-growing industry. There's volatility. Certainly, there's new players constantly kind of popping up. Do you see that in terms of, or with some of the other advisors and people in the industry that you talk to?
Yeah, I definitely think that it makes sense that times are changing very quickly, and being able to predict the future is not an easy thing to do. And I'm also looking at these other areas of competence and importance. I mean, it looks like the respondents of the survey aren't quite up to speed in terms of competence. While they have a high confidence in their agility and flexibility, it's not quite as high as what they're ranking as the importance, and same with technical competence. So I think there's always room for improvement in these different areas where, say, same thing with technology foresight, where it's highly important and it's not quite as competent as the respondents would like to be. So
sure. Yeah, it's just changing so fast, and even, I mean, some of my other colleagues we agree, it used to be that you can have a client or a customer in one area for, dozens of years, decades, but today it's so easy to be able to search for the competitors in your area. There's kind of a desire and a want to shift gears and try things out. So I think the understanding constantly what's important, what the market is looking for, what customers are looking for. I think that's just growing, and it's surprising though because we have the data, right? There's so many more outlets to get the data, and it's something that we're helping our clients with right now as well.
Great.
Okay, well, let's look at growth trends next then. Okay, here we have 4 pie charts that represent 4 different years, from 2008 to 9, 9 to 10, then from 2013 to 2014, and 2014 to 2015. And this shows that how organizations have been growing. If you look at the blue slice, you can see organizations that didn't have any growth or they were getting smaller. And you could see that after the burst in 2008, there was a large number, almost a third of the organizations either didn't grow or got smaller. And now you can see that in the last 2 years, the organizations that have been struggling is down by about 10%. And so there's a smaller portion that are not growing in the ICT industry. And you can see that the organizations that are growing, have a healthy growth rate between 1% to 30% is a significant part of the industry right now. I think in 2013 to 2014 that the brown and the green were about 60%, and from 2014 to 2015 it's 62%. So the industry is growing, which is a good sign for people who want to get into the field and looking for jobs in that field.
But the high growth that are doubling, that's kind of remained pretty static, it looks like, and same with the from the 31% and up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really hard to get, as you get larger, it's really hard to maintain double your growth every year. So you still, it's really impressive that such a large number, or even better than, double-digit growth, greater than 10% growth each year. It's about half the organizations from 2014 to 2015. That alone is very impressive, and I doubt there's very many other industries that can show double-digit growth for such a broad range.
Totally agree.
Okay, so how are companies investing? Well, for me, sadly, I like R&D. So I was sad when I saw that only less than 5% of the companies, there's a big chunk are not investing a whole lot in R&D. But it does look like quite a few are investing in existing products. So it has gone up a little bit over the last couple of years in R&D. It does look like they are investing in sales and marketing also to a good extent.
And I think the change in that is, again, over the last, a decade ago, marketing was less of a science, more of an art. It was very ethereal, kind of measure the wind, try to assume or guess, what people are thinking. Today, we have so much data behind how people are behaving and interacting with content that we put out, what they're actually interested in, and we can create a measurable, predictable funnel that customers go through, and that's really exciting when we can show the data behind increasing not just likes in social media or hits on the website, but that turning into customers and sales, more leads, more activity. That's the most exciting part on the sales and marketing side for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think looking at where companies are raising their capital, goes to what you said earlier, James, about it being a lot of startups, because you look at, there's a lot of personal investment and friends and family, and I picture that's small organizations trying to grow rapidly, is investing their own money into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much higher than it was before. And again, the personal investment, you couldn't get a startup off the ground for $50,000, right? It was impossible 10 years ago. You needed to raise the capital, show rapid growth. But today it's all about lean and agile production, creating a minimum viable product, get out into the market and test quickly, and you can use your personal investment for that. It's a minimal investment to do that.
Yes. And so that allows for more people, more companies to be in the mix to do that. Okay, so let's move on to the comments that were on the survey. There are quite a few comments on cloud computing, and we've just summarized some of them here. So these are predictions some of the respondents made and some of the other the comments that they just put in there, but a lot of them are looking to just move as much as they can onto the cloud. Part of it was to eliminate the infrastructure, admin, and costs that they have, and also it helps alleviate some of the skill shortage that they have. So it may be easier, okay, instead of finding the workers to come in who have the technical skills that they need, we'll just do a contract and move things out to the cloud. Okay, and then for security, they did notice the need to focus on security. There were no specific areas, but pretty much it covered, as we mentioned earlier, that the security needs to be addressed in a number of different of the areas of information technology. And then the mobile and information and Internet of Things, the IoT, the idea that they're going to be receiving data from a large number of devices, we've got to be able to analyze and process that data now. And it's not just devices, we typically think Internet of Things are devices in the home, but it's devices and sensors that can be at the workplace, in the manufacturing facility, that can help improve the processes that are there.
Yeah, and Tim, I don't think we've talked about this enough, that mobile as a channel, as a complete channel, we probably only scratched 30% of where this industry is going. There's so many improvements to our mobile devices. It is a complete tool with all of those sensors and activity and data that is centralized, attached to every person. I mean, again, we talk about wearables a lot. We talk about IoT at home, but I think mobile is going to explode in the next 10 years with further activity, further applications, further connectivity, and being able to use that data for purposes in every industry.
Yes, I agree with that. And they'll probably, as we get wearable devices from watches, Fitbits, and similar devices, they're collecting a lot of information that can be used in many different ways. And so all of that, there's probably new devices, well, there will be new devices coming out, new areas that we haven't even thought about yet. It's being prepared for those and being able to integrate the new mobile technology and the new devices, the new data into what we're doing now to improve ourselves.
Do you think there's a specific global impact on this as well? I know we had some global respondents on the survey, and I'm wondering if mobile and IoT, how that impacts cross-regional interactions.
I think where mobile is impacting most in other regions is in smartphone technology, mobile phone technology. In some respects, Internet of Things has got there mostly in webcams and general devices like that I know of right now. I may not have full information, but smartphones have broken into many areas and helped people connect to the Internet who couldn't connect before. They don't have computers. They don't have Wi-Fi or typical Internet like we would have in our homes, but they have smartphones which gives them the ability now to connect to the internet that they didn't have before.
Yeah, Janice, if you think about it, 20 years ago, trying to get that internet, trying to get that connectivity to remote locations in the Mideast, in certain parts of Asia, most of Africa, it was almost impossible to do that because it would be billions of dollars of infrastructure. And today, the connectivity is so simple. We see a flood of IoT and mobile applications really surging into those emerging second world markets, and that's so exciting because companies like here in Rhode Island, one of the largest gaming companies in the world, IGT, formerly GTech, we did their website, helped them out with marketing material in the past. But that is an emerging market for them because it was impossible. You couldn't get that sort of connectivity and gaming and that sort of technology into the hands of people. But if you can do it from mobile devices and people were able to play, connect to each other, that just changes the game, right? So I think that's the place where we see that the most explosive type of growth and disruption. But yeah, I mean it's worldwide because we're all connected now. So that's the impact is huge.
Yep, that's feeding into the rapid change we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And all that data goes into what's on the next slide, the analytics. Being able to understand what you can do with all the data that's coming in, not just be able to look at how your business has performed in the past, but being able to predict how your business is going to perform in the future and how can you best guide your business. Where earlier slides talked about the lack of confidence in the ability to do technology forecasting or analysis for the future, that's where big data can really help, is being able to look at the data, do the statistical analysis, and predict the future of your organization. And it's not just doing the analysis, you've got to get the right data, you've got to set up the right data warehouse. There is a lot to this analytics.
Yeah. Tim, this is my favorite slide because what you said and what the next part says go hand in hand. Analyzing that data, understanding it, it's probably 15% of the population that can do that well. I'm being generous there. And so having artificial intelligence be able to read that data, understand it, create automated tasks from it, those are some of the most exciting things that we're doing here at Figments, what we get to do for our clients on the marketing strategy. But this is probably, in my personal opinion, the most exciting thing that's happening in ICT because the more that we can have intelligent decisions made for us to do things like recommendationing or planning. I mean, there's just so many areas that this affects, and the ability it's because of the data that we have that ability. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Right, and I think you bring up a really good point that the artificial intelligence is not general human intelligence like most people would think. It's helping us to make much better decisions based on the data that we have. In the past, we had very limited what are called expert systems. But what we've moved to now with this artificial intelligence is, like James said, being able to help us make the best decisions, best marketing decisions, best business decisions. It goes down to your car making the best decisions as it drives down the road based on the data that it's getting. And so that's a lot of what we're looking at with artificial intelligence. Okay, we can go on. Next slide. Kind of recaps the artificial intelligence and gets into some of the economic comments.
It's that important.
Yeah, so it showed up on 2 slides, yes. Okay, yeah. So it was interesting to see that some respondents said that the customers and industry are holding back in investments, and that to me related to some of the uncertainty, at least in Rhode Island. But again, you and I, James, have different perspectives because we're in different industries here in Rhode Island. I do the education and work a lot in healthcare, and you're on the marketing side and work in other areas, and so we do have a different look at this. So that's why I kind of felt more I guess,
Yeah,
less confidence.
and yeah, I don't know if this comment came from an investor or if it came from someone looking for investments, because I will say, when I look at, again, startups, good startups, startups that have viable products and want to grow, it's much harder to play in that space. It's not that the money's not there, but people are doubling down on what's been working over the last 10, 15 years, in my opinion. So it's probably harder for them, to raise that capital and that initial fund. It used to be, I remember, trying to raise capital for some of the early startups I was a part of. We were looking for 500,000, to $1 million. Even $250,000 was enough to get us by. And today the market's very different. I don't hear a lot of people investing in companies for less than 1.5, $2 million, $3 million. And you have to have a really great argument to raise that capital, because you can get a lot further now with less money and try to do it on your own, acquire customers. So I'm not sure where the comment came from, but I suspect that if it's from somebody trying to raise money, that's definitely true. It's a little bit harder to do that.
It might also have to do with the election. We were talking about that earlier. People tend not to, make commitments before a big change in government, that type of thing.
Right. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. It has HR comments on it. I thought from an education perspective, I feel responsible that there's a scarcity of qualified candidates in Rhode Island, that we need to pick up the education and training to get those people out there.
Right. Part of it is finding the people who want to learn to come and gain the technology education that will, because I don't think there's a scarcity of demand.
Right.
So increasing this supply is definitely something that we're working on here at New England Institute of Technology.
Mm-hmm.
What about from your perspective, James?
Yeah, I think you'll see kind of a natural shift as things do become more automated, even in robotics. If we're losing jobs in one area, this area ICT is definitely in growth, and so I think we're going to see kind of this transition between unskilled labor becoming more skilled, and creating more, because the opportunities are there, the need is there, like you said, Janice. So that's just going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and the comment about the diversity of thought and humanness is it's very true, because in ICT there's still well below 20% are women, and minorities are also underrepresented in the industry overall. And I know that, at least in Rhode Island, we have a very aggressive Computer Science Teachers Association that has done a lot to bring computing technology into the K-12 arena, to try to broaden the spectrum of people who are interested in computers and information technology. Because if people are discouraged or disengaged from the technology when they're children, they're not going to want to pursue that as a career. They don't see themselves in that area. And so in the K-12 arena, they're really working hard to change that here in Rhode Island.
And on the flip side, the aging population that's mentioned here, I think that Rhode Island has a high aging population, and I've spoken to a few of the mature audience who've said that they're starting to use social media, really interested in technology, maybe thinking of going back and getting a second master's degree, or getting a degree if they've never gotten one. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that there's a talented pool of on the other end of the spectrum. There's the younger generation coming in, but then there's also the aging population that can contribute to technologies, and thinking about the health technologies as well. And there being an audience, the audience that needs certain technologies, they may be the ones to come up with the technology solutions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'll make the prediction now that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see an exponential increase in software, web services, IoT, garnered around the retirement age folks, and who better to know that industry than that age group? And so we're bound to see more technology kind of focused in those areas, and there's very little right now.
Okay, so let's go and look at some key points to wrap things up here. From an industry perspective, generally the feedback came back that mobile web platforms are moving to open source, and marketing's receiving a big re-emphasis as the business areas, it's an important business area to keep growing. Future Markets concerned has a financial concern in cash flow financing and account receivables, and company sizes are increasing here. We also saw that companies are focused on measuring how cash flow happens, and one of the ones that was most encouraging to me was that the revenue is increasing by 11 to 30% a year. A significant number of the companies have double-digit growth, and it's been steadily increasing since 2008. So for at least the last 8 years, ICT has been a growing industry, and companies are continuing to invest in existing products more than R&D and sales and marketing. And we've got to change that R&D one.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt ICT is an exciting industry. It's an exciting group. There's a lot of subcategories that exist within talking about this group ICT. The ones I can point out, we've talked about marketing, data, AI, driving so much of the decisions, helping other businesses. There's a lot of common threads, between these improvements in the industry. The connectivity, the ability to connect, the ability to get information to team quickly, the ability to grow and scale quickly, the ability to compete on a global scale online. All those reasons, I think, those play a factor into making the ICT industry just really exciting.
Thank you, James and Tim and Paul, for all the comments and putting this together in terms of showing the results and predicting the future. And I think there may be some more questions that will come in, and I would love to have people reach out to us and continue to address the questions and see what comes next for the ICT industry.
Yes, I second that, Janice. Thank you so much, Tim and James, for your help on this. We really appreciate all the work, Tim, that you put into the graphics and compiling the results. It was a big help, and we look forward to people's further comments. If you'd like additional copies of the survey or have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Janice or myself. And with that, we're going to conclude the webinar and hope to hear from you in the future.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. That will conclude the webinar. Thank you very much.